Yes, and only by those. This is why Veda's cornerstone is the guru, the master. Because every person has a unique path to the ultimate. But the ultimate is the same reality for everyone. True enlightenment is knowledge of death, of life, and of consciousness. You can live for 100 years without any knowledge of who or what or where you are in the universe. But he who takes the time to investigate this predicament will naturally notice and become aware that this life is not the end of consciousness or even the beginning. Knowledge of death is not easy. Try to break the secret of death to a child. This is what the guru is doing over and over again. This is why the guru is known as Baba, the benign one. Because he is the only one who can see that our true destination is death, which many seekers are calling enlightenment. The guru is fully enlightened, so he knows the true reality means death for everyone involved, even himself. He has prepared himself to leave his body permanently. This is who the master is. This is why we say he is a master of this dimension. Because he has no attachments to it literally. We mean the true saint who has surrendered to his own death. You might be lucky to stumble upon him meditating in a cave, preparing for the moment that he merge with all existence. He is not worried about you. He is not in the business of creating disciples for Jesus. He's not here to save you. He is a yogi preparing for death, which is absolute reality. This person is enlightened. If you ask him a question, he will be glad to answer it. But if you poke him with a stick as to why he is not training disciples every day, he will just walk away from you. He doesn't need you in the slightest way. Because reality has sentenced him to death, and he knows it. So he must learn how to balance the art of living and being alive, which totally is up to him. When death is so easy and so close, it takes a genius to truly live. The master can give you awareness of this predicament without scaring you or causing you to kill yourself, which is a rational response to some of the realities that are revealed in time to the living soul. The master knows that while death is the great ocean that all of mysticism is talking about, life itself is the divine manifestation of that reality, so there is no need to die anytime soon. If life is like a dream, and death is the truer reality, then enlightenment is simply the art of living life with full knowledge of death. You gain awareness of the mechanics of reality, you don't ignore death. You learn the art of living, which is a way of life. This is what I have found as a teacher of enlightenment. 1. Even though I have experienced Satori, the event of enlightenment, and Samadhi, the eternal nature of enlightened consciousness, I can't Shaktipat you into Satori, but I can guide you into Samadhi. 2. Your Satori will likely not be exactly like mine. When I experienced Satori, I was with two friends sitting on the front porch smoking a hookah during a blood moon eclipse at night. It was dark and I was laughing and having a good time. It was conducive for me to close my eyes for a moment, and at that moment, something like a divine mix between déjà vu and blacking out completely happened, where I lost consciousness for a moment, but in such a divine déjà vu kind of way, that I gained a perception of extrasensory details of my reality. I was completely conscious. I was conscious through the moment of Satori. In that moment everything disappeared, but I was still there to witness it. I always describe it with the thought that accompanied the experience, which was, I have felt this before, I have died before. Therefore I have lived before. I was realizing the intimate fact that this was not my first or only life. I was literally a reincarnation of myself. This was so real and vivid and strange, that I immediately opened my eyes and started crying. Strangely, in that moment one of my friends bowed and asked me, "How does it feel?" It was not I who had opened my eyes, it was God who had opened his crying eyes there. 3. Of the 50 people who have seen this answer so far, no one has responded. No offense intended, but to me, after 600 answers about God and enlightenment with the same no response from Quora, a site where you answer questions and ask questions, this tells me that either people are reading it and skipping over it as if it is not helpful for their enlightenment, or that people don't believe these answers are helpful for enlightenment at all, or that they are not worth responding to, or that they don't elicit any questions. Perhaps they are too obvious, easily understood because the points I make are obvious, or just a simple case of the Yukteswar Yogananda situation, where Yukteswar waited many years before finding just one student to whom he could teach his holy science, and he eventually found him as Yogananda, and it was worth the wait. This type of knowledge is passed down in a traditional lineage from person to person. The moment that I mention the word God when talking about enlightenment, seekers run. They say that enlightenment has nothing to do with God, and while this may be partially true for some cases like the Buddha, it is a vast misunderstanding of enlightenment and what God is to say that enlightenment has nothing to do with God, when in fact enlightenment is God. You can't use the Buddha as an excuse that God doesn't exist when I am literally saying that Buddha is an enlightened manifestation of the One. You see, it is the same thing, just different word choice, so you have to have the knowledge that enlightenment is a thing of God and the divine. Buddha said he was not an angel, but this doesn't mean that he was actually not an angel. He was. He knew that the true God, the only God there is, was himself. Anyone who knows it, most likely didn't yet accomplish it. There are many prophets and sages, gurus, etc. All of them are somewhere along that road to accomplishment. Even these people are there to say the path and will give answers as most do. Please understand that a lot of what you want to know is in secret, as those wiser than the rest of us can see we are, as a world population, moving away from the goal of enlightenment and not toward it. The best place to go is Gnostic teachings, practical spirituality. It was founded by a mystic who has passed, but like any of these people that are walking the path, they stop into life to write and teach. The founder of this site wrote over 60 books, knows all his past lifetimes and could leave his body at will, which is an important part of what we all must do if we are to travel in a higher realm to learn from those masters that live in this realm, as well as temples of wisdom. Everything on this site is free and it is taught using terms of the Buddhists, Hindus, the Kabbalah and Christianity. There is a glossary of terms which is a must to keep near you as you learn. In general, all belief systems are telling us the same thing, as I have spent 47 years now looking for answer to my personal self-realization experience. We have 47 levels of consciousness that we must clear out all our clutter from lifetimes of living wrong. This clutter keeps us from moving into these higher levels of consciousness. A major part of the problem is we believe we are separate from creation, instead of creation itself. This causes fears in us, when if we knew we were not separate, we would have not fears. Having no fears is what is needed because of how now we have trained our mind to believe. Anyway, clear away the clutter, then you grow spiritually. Complete the cleanup job and love and compassion filled that void. With that you now are one with the infinite, and that is enlightenment. This all has to do with cosmic law and not man's law. Creation will always balance itself for survival. Man's degeneration will always be placed back in check. So the above is all about us believing that we are creation and then volunteering to cooperate at our own human level to teach others. If we as the group in doubt, time to freely do as we please is in question, because of cosmic law. Life is suffering because of fighting the inevitable, and moving toward enlightenment is the solution.